5 teams have locked their positions in the playoffs. This last week was a little bit crazy. This is Sports Hour. We are going into week 13. We have only a few weeks left, and with that, there are a couple of games that clinched, and of course, there are teams that could clinch going into this next week. There were quite a few games going into this. Let me get to the right thing. And we get to talk about each of the teams. Now, the Dogs and the Panthers both have clinched a playoff position. At this current time, Dogs clinched one last week. The Panthers clinched up one this week with their win. The Dragons have clinched their division, so they are going to be a minimum the number 4 seed. Dogs and Panthers fighting between the 1st and 5th seeds. Most likely, it's not insured, but it is going to be very likely the Panthers and Dogs will hit the 1st and 2nd, 5th seeds, which means they won't play each other in the first round. They could end up playing each other, probably round 2. Meanwhile, we have the other side. We had the Athens, the Supermen, and the Lightning were all eliminated from the playoffs. They all have pretty bad records going into it. Legends were also eliminated in the NBL. The ABL now has 2 clinches. The Warriors and the Stars both clinched. However, it's going to be kind of tight because with a win this week, actually, now think about it, it's not. Because in theory, the Warriors could beat them if they go undefeated for the season. But, unfortunately, the way it works out, even if they get all their games correct, they can't beat the Warriors. The Warriors have beaten them twice already this season. Therefore, the Warriors will have that seed. Now, what seed they're getting, you don't know. Meanwhile, the ABL East, it's anyone's game still. It might not, and honestly, it's probably the same thing it was last year. Last year, all that division was all anyone's game, and it's still pretty much anyone's game. Going into it, if it gets to week tomorrow, next week, the Colts might clinch it if they win this week, along with the Bobcats, the Techs, and the UNC and Dolphins both losing. I don't think it's going to be completely that way, but there's a possibility out there. If the playoffs were to occur today, I don't think we have a playoff bracket up right now. Let's see, do I have a playoffs? currently, but I'll probably put one together before or next week. We'll have a little bit more of a idea of what's going on. But currently, it could be anyone's game. Even in the ABL, anyone could still technically get the number one seed. It's really going to might come down to the last 2 weeks of Week 14 and Week 16 to decide who wins the division between the Panthers and the Dogs, because both those teams play in the last 2 weeks of the season, 3 weeks of the season. So they play Week 14 and Week 16. As for a lot of other things going on, Tigers clinch if they win and the Giants lose, because then they'll be at 10 wins and the Giants will be at can't make it. And that's all because these two teams have faced twice already, and the Tigers have won both of them. So, comes to the fact is, if the Tigers win and the Giants lose, the Tigers will clinch that seed. Although they're still pretty close to fighting any one of them. And who knows who actually doesn't make the playoffs at this point. In theory, there's a lot of teams that still can make the playoffs. The only team that can not make the playoffs is the Legends in the NBL. Cardinals can still technically make a playoffs seed, although it's very rarely close. Basically, each of these teams here that are below minus the Indians, if they lose, they will not be able to do it, because maybe not the 5, 6, and 5 and 7 teams, but any of these teams here. Let me go and bold those. Nope, not that. Any of these teams, they lose, they will probably not be able to make it on top of that. But it's going to come down to a lot of things. On the other side here, it's really kind of open for any of these teams to make the playoffs, because they're kind of fighting it. The Athens, the Legend, the Lightning, and the Superman have all been eliminated at this point, but Lynx are on the edge of being eliminated. They lose this week, they will be eliminated from the playoffs as well. Meanwhile, going at the seeds here, who knows what happens in this one. If we were to decide right now, or determine who would actually make it into the playoffs right now, assuming that we knew who the winner or loser would be, we would say the seed 1 right now would be make it easier. It would probably be the Dogs. Let's just say the Dogs in play seed let's say Dogs seed 1 and Legends make seed 2. Warriors make seed 2. Those are the two best teams, those most likely to make it. Now, seed 1, or the highest remaining seeds, are next. The highest remaining seed after them is going to be the Legends. And also mixed with the Stars. Those are the next one seed. All of these could be interchanged, so basically these two could switch, or these two could switch. It comes down to whoever has the higher record right now, so right now that would be what would happen is actually, right now it would be these two teams. Highest remaining defense and highest rating offense. And those two could also switch based off a record. The highest defense currently is all the way down here. So the Lions currently would have that one. They currently don't have a higher record, so they would be higher. They would be lower than that. They would actually be switched down here. Highest rated offense would be with this. highest rated offense. And also, this is not going to be close when it comes to the fact here. The Panthers would be the next one here. So this would be the current top seeds. Then we look at best record, and I'm not going to look at any of these, but these are the teams that would make it into it based off of those records. We would look then at the best record and the next best record of the NBL and ABL, and that would be mixed based on of where everyone is. And then we have whatever the next best 4 records after that. That's basically what happens off of those. So these are the teams that would currently be in that seed position. I'm not going to really look at any of the other ones. It just comes on to the end of the season and decides those. Week 13 is on its way, so I can talk about that one. We start off with the Foxes and the Hawks. The Foxes are favored by 7. It's not going to look fun for this game because this game is just not really in a particular position that either one of these teams could actually do it. Foxes are 20 and 21, and the Hawks are 23rd and 25th. So actually, the Hawks are worse when it comes to position after that. But looking at how the Hawks have handled the last couple of weeks and that they don't have any injuries or anything like that, puts me to think the Hawks are going to win this game. It's going to be a close game, and I think honestly that +7 could easily go in the way for the Hawks to win this game. Supermen, the Chargers. Supermen are dead last pretty much in everything here. Supermen here are down here 39 to 33. I think honestly that's like one of the lowest you can even get. They have a pretty low standpoint when it comes to this because the context is it is not going to be a fun game at all for that one at all. So honestly, in my opinion here, it's not going to be fun for this one for them at all. Looking at the other time, it's going to be the Chargers that win this game because there's just absolutely no chance Superman can come and win. They can't come back and win. Last week, the Superman got demolished. They actually, and I will say this because in the context, you see they scored 44 points. Well, that 44 points was all in the fourth quarter. They didn't score a single point in any of the first 3 quarters. Stars, granted, are one of the better teams when it comes to the facts here, but if you can't score throughout the game, you are not going to. I feel like if the Supermen had actually played throughout the game, they would have probably scored around 70 points versus and they would have only allowed probably 100 points. But even then, I still think the Supermen would have lost that game. And it just comes to the fact that I don't think there's a chance that the Supermen can win this game. So it's going to be the Supermen Chargers winning this game. We got the Dogs and Cardinals. That's a divisional game. And with a Dogs win and a Panthers win. Okay, rephrase that. Let me put it this way. If the Panthers win, the Dogs win, and the Panthers lose, it will still not be enough because the Panthers and Dogs chance. It would have to be, if that occurred though, the Dogs would have to lose the Panthers both times for them not to get the seed. If they go 1-1, they would probably still get the seed. In my opinion, it still comes down to me being the Dogs winning this game. It's not going to be a fun game, honestly. I feel like that game is not going to be great. That one's at 10 o'clock on Sunday. Legends and Huskies. Legends are already eliminated. Huskies have nothing to play for. They might as well not even play any of their real starters. Even then, I don't think even if they play their starters, I don't think it makes a difference. I'm going to put Huskies winning that game. Legends of Bears. Lightning Bears, sorry. Lightning won last week. So shockingly. But they did play another one of the worst teams. So yeah, It does not work out well. I forgot to put this in here. I'll get that in a second here. But looking at this, it's not. That was lucky. Honestly, they won that game, and I just don't see them beating the Bears. Even though the Bears are not a good team either. Bears did what did the Bears do last week? Bears actually won against the Indians, but the Indians were very injured, or whoever is that suspended players. So I'm gonna say right now that they are not gonna be nearly as good against this team here. And looking at that, I'm going to say I think it's going to be a very close matchup. I'm going to give the Lightning the win here. However, I don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I'm going to say it's probably going to be like 120 points combined between them. We got the Kings and Indians. I believe, if I'm looking at it correctly, you guys won't see this, but I'm going to look at it here. That's over here. If we look at it correctly here, I think the Indians have all their players back. Yes, all their players will be back going into this week, although they are somewhat young team. I think it's going to be really difficult for the Kings to lose this game. I think the Indians coming back, having enough players, really does help them out. I'm going to give the Kings the win here. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be something like a 5-point game in the end. Even though the Indians are only favored, that's why Kings are favored by 1 here. But I don't know how well that's going to go out with that game. Bulldogs and Falcons. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know to say here. Bulldogs have done well the last couple of weeks. I think they won last week. They won last week, and we'll play the Angels. They only won by 1. And week 11, I think they lost. I don't see them on here right now, but I think they lost in that week. They're not doing terribly when it comes to the fact here. The Falcons, I think, are just such a better team when it comes to this. I'm going to go with there being the Falcons winning this game. It's going to be a very close game, though. Even though the Bulls are favored, I think it's going to be a slight advantage to the Falcons. We got the Browns and Otters. I think it's a divisional game, if I remember correctly. No, it's not. Browns, looking at what they've got here, the Browns have got. They're currently leading, but they're on an edge here. And they got 10, 9, 10, and then 9 versus they got the R's who are 12 and hits. I think the R's are not nearly as good, but I won't be surprised if the R's can come back and win this game. And honestly, here's the thing. The R's do need to win this game to kind of put them in a position where they might get the 5th seed. They're not going to win their division, but they could go really highest, and I think they want to win this game. I unfortunately don't think it's going to be quite enough for them. I'm going to go with the Browns winning this game. Werewolves and Langley Cats. Yeah. I'm giving the Werewolves the win here. Langley Cats are looking really strong, but it's just not good enough for them to go out here. We got the Saints and Angels. Both of them are pretty bad. Angels are favored by 28, though, and I think, honestly, Angels looking slightly better. They got the Angels last week. did get beaten by 1, and they only lost by 1. Then they were very close in the tops here. I think it's gonna be close, and honestly, this game could go either way. I'm gonna go with the underdogs here. I'm gonna say the Saints are winning this game. Um, I think Saints will come back and just come out and win this game. It's gonna be a close game in the end. There, I think favorite for 28 is probably not accurate. Lynx and Lions, both these teams are terrible. But if I'm looking at the Lions, looking at the Lynx, Lynx are dead last. Basically dead last in offense and pretty good defense. Versus the Lions are really good, not really good in offense, but really good in defense. I'm going the Lions winning this one, and I think everyone picked L. What does that mean? Okay. Okay, everyone. Thank you. Everyone picked the Lions. We got UNC and the Dolphins. Dolphins got kind of shocked and surprised in the last week's games. Looking at that, the Dolphins did end up getting beaten in overtime, but it was a very one-sided game towards the end there. I'm going to say it was a pretty close game, and honestly, getting over 100, over almost 300 points, it's a lot of points for both these teams to even get into the point here. And in my opinion here, UNC, if we looked at UNC did not score nearly as well, even though they're not bad. UNC and the UNC here honestly is not great, and the Dolphins are not great either. So both these teams are going to pretty set. This is going to be probably a pretty low scoring game, maybe around 90 points each. I'm going to go in this case with the Dolphins winning this game. We got the Warriors and Packers. Yeah, Warriors win this game. The Packers will probably put up a good fight in this game, but honestly not good enough, for my opinion here, because it's going to be a really good game, but I don't think it's going to be great off it. We got the Bengals and the Stars. Stars easily favored to win this game. Bengals are going to put up a good fight. There's no doubt. But still. Jets and the Athens. Athens got kind of sadly demolished last week, and also they're going to get demolished this week. Gave me the Jets in that game. We got the Dragons and the Pirates. Dragons win this game. I just don't think there's any chance that the Dragons don't win this game. And honestly, with that, not only will they clinch the division, they will clinch probably at least the second seed, if I'm looking at this right. Looking at the Dragons here. Dragons will, if they win, and the Browns and Tigers both lose, they will clinch at minimum the second seed. They might not get the first seed, and they might not get the third seed, but they're going to get a minimum second seed out of this if they win and both the Tigers and Browns win. Now, granted, that is a pretty high level on the context there. Let's see, we got the Texans and the Colts. Both these teams are pretty high up there. And is that the game? No. Okay. Well, Texans Colts. It's going to be a pretty close game. They're fighting for the division because here's the thing: Colts win. And I'll say this: if the Colts win, they likely will clinch next week. So they'll clinch in week 14. That will be because both the Bobcats and UNC have to play, and both the Texans and Dolphins to play. So, okay, the UNC and Dolphins face off this week. So if it will be whoever wins that game could still beat them, but then they lose next week, then Colts will clinch. I think honestly it's going to be a very close matchup between these two teams. The Tex showed up a lot, and honestly, even though the Colts are favored in this game by 35 points, I'm going to go against it. I'm going to say the Tex win this game. The Giants and the Tigers. This was the game of the week. No, apparently they don't want to. No. Okay. Oh wait. Yeah. So this is a pretty close game. Either way, either one of these teams could do it. But this game could decide whether the Giants can win the division or not, because we are at 13, 14, 15, 6. We have 4 games left, and with a Tigers win, they might clinch at least a position in the playoffs. Not necessarily the division itself, but in the playoffs themselves, if that happens at all. I think the Tigers really would like to win this game, but it comes to a lot of things here. I'm going to go with the Tigers winning, but it could go either way. Ravens and Bobcats? No? Okay. It's going to be Bobcats winning this game. Ravens have just kind of shut down over the last couple of weeks. Ravens have, let's see, over the last, they lost to the Giants. They lost to UNC. They lost to the Colts. Yeah, those in here too. This is one of those games that kind of get downwards here, and this is the game's over. We get to what they're calling the game of the week. Is that right? The Knights and the Panthers are the game of the week. Now, why is it the game of the week? I don't know. Could you give me some info about that? Well, that's a stupid reason. 53rd is the 63rd matchup between the two. That doesn't mean anything. 64th. Oh, well, that's even better. 64th matchup. What does that supposed to mean? So they've said it's the 64th matchup between these two teams, and the. Okay, let me just put it this way. They've played 64 times. There is a great amount. It's 52 times the Panthers have won, and 7 times the. Nope, sorry. And 11 times they've won, right? 53rd time. So it's 51 times the Panthers have won versus the Giants. I don't know why that's a matchup of the week. To my opinion, it looks to me like the better matchup would be the Wales Giants. But they wanted to go with that. That's fine for me. If that's what you guys want to go with. Anyways, that is going to be all that for that one. All right, now that we are getting to the end of the week 13, I will say this: there's going to be a lot of things going into the NBA playoffs. I'm going to go ahead and show you what happens with this one here. This is how it's going to look. It's very much like March Madness, although I actually have to update the thing on that over here. Copy. I'm not copying the. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, it's actually it actually copied. So this is how it's going to look, and we'll see what happens against the North, the South, the East is this division. I'll have to work about updating that one, and these all will be updated. about later. That is how the book will look. I will see you guys in the next episode, which will be week 14, where we have some interesting weeks. Oh, I didn't pair between the Knights and Panthers. I'm gonna go with Panthers. See you in the next video.